My dad committed suicide when I was probably about 12. I wanted to be rich. I made a clear decision. I need to make money. And someone I knew, he was working as an estate agent and he was making a lot of money. That's what I want to be doing. A truck from behind hit me at about 60 miles an hour, literally smashed me, smashed my bike. I don't remember anything about it. They told me you're not going to walk again. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk. So I was determined that I would be walking again.
Was there ever a world where you'll never walk again?
No.
12 weeks out, we were Googling 12-week
Training plan.
Iron Man training programs.
Life is precious, but every day that we wake up and we're alive, we've got something to be grateful for. So I paid for 5 schools to be built in Africa. I want to fund a project, something I can go and see, and a tangible thing.
January 2006, I signed a contract called the Newman Family Expectations.
Right, yeah. One of the things I'm very grateful for is that I don't worry about anything. My purpose is to help others. My mission in life is to have a positive impact on other people's lives.
I was woken up by Mum early one morning basically saying that you were about to die and we needed to go and basically say our goodbyes. What do you remember about that experience? So, you've achieved a lot of great things in your life.
I don't know about that.
But I want to start at the start. So maybe if you can take a moment to kind of set the scene of what childhood was like for you.
So I grew up with a brother and a sister. So my brother was 5 years younger than me. And I had an older sister who was in a wheelchair. I didn't really have someone to play games with, football. I couldn't go and play football with my brother because if I was 10, he was 5 years old and too young. Couldn't play football with my sister because she was in a wheelchair. So yeah, that was challenging in some ways. And my parents, my dad wasn't really there. He wasn't, good father to me. And actually, I learned a lot from him, how not to be a father. My mum and dad got divorced. There was lots of fighting going on in the house, lots of arguments. I do feel I missed out not having a father figure in the house, like things that I wanted to do, like play football, even like I never went to a football match, and it sounds like a little thing, but there's little things that, as a young boy, you want a male figure to look up to do things with or to learn from. So mainly my mum brought us up. She did an incredible job having to look after a disabled, my sister, a younger brother, me. But I guess it gave me a lot more independence because I had to be the man of the house when my dad wasn't there. And my dad committed suicide when I was probably about 12. And yeah, so then we were poor. I mean, I might as well add that in. We were very, very poor. Like my mum was on benefits and we had to do with hand-me-downs from other friends or people that gave us, stuff, toys, clothes. My mum was very religious. She went to church every day and she'd help out at the jumble sale. And so when there was a jumble sale, that's when I'd get some new clothes. And she was really pleased that she got there early, especially so she could get all the good stuff. So we never really had new clothes, never really had a car. We grew up pretty poor and we knew we were poor as well because we didn't have really holidays. The best holiday would be camping in Wales in the rain. And I saw what I thought rich people, which, on reflection, they were just regular people. And I did realise at a young age I wanted to be rich because I didn't want to be poor. To have a car, to have a telly, to have games and stuff that we didn't have. At school when, at the end of a term and all the kids bring the games in to play, mm-hmm. That was a great time for me because I get to see all these other toys that I wouldn't normally have. So yeah, we grew up poor. There was definitely some challenges, and then my mum got a boyfriend, and I didn't get on with him, and we used to fight and argue, and then I ended up leaving home probably at about 15. In fact, running away from home a few times. I ran away. I'll tell you one quick story. I had an argument. I thought, right, I'll teach them. I'm going to run away. So I remember one night I climbed out the bedroom window and then I went out And I was walking into the town. I thought, right, okay, I'm going to stay out, and where can I sleep? And there's nowhere to sleep. And I went to a park, and it was freezing cold, and I was pulling branches off a conifer tree to lie on the floor because the floor was a bit wet, and I couldn't get to sleep, and I'd wake up and I'd fall asleep. Then I went wandering around the town, and I was going to this car. There was a car sales area, loads of cars on a forecourt, and I was testing these cars, see if any of them were open. And one of them was open, and I thought, oh God, I can sleep in the back seat. So I thought, I'll sleep in the back seat, and I couldn't sleep, and I woke up and I couldn't sleep. And in the end, it was probably about, I don't know, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, right, walk back home, and I thought, right, I'm going to go in the shed. So I was in the shed, and then, couldn't sleep. I ended up at about 6 o'clock, climbing back on the roof, getting back into my bed, and my mum never even knew I'd run away. So that was a waste of time. But anyway, I did leave home in the end. I stayed at other people's places, and in the end, social services caught up with me, and someone reported me, and I said I didn't want to live at home, and I ended up living in a bedsit. So from about, I don't know, 15 years old, still at school, but living.
So what did you want to do back
What
then?
did I want to do when I was at school? I was like, my mum wanted me to be a priest. My mum actually said to me, get a good job, get a safe job. And this is obviously a generation back, you know. I didn't really have any qualifications, but she said, work in a bank is a safe job, and, you know, there's good salary and career progression and all that. So I did actually get a job on what they called a YTF youth training scheme, which was sort of like, I don't know, £25 a week. And it was like a training course for a year. And if you were lucky at the end of the year, they'd take you on, and they did take me on. But what did I want to do with that? I don't know. I wasn't sure. I just thought I wanted to be rich. And I thought I made a clear decision that I was either going to do this legally or illegal, one way or the other. I don't know. I just wasn't sure on the how. I just knew that I needed to have a better lifestyle.
So you left home.
Yeah.
And I mean, where were you staying?
So I was in a bedsit. So this lady had a house with her husband, and they had, it was like 6 or 7 bedrooms. So they're renting the rooms out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had an evening meal that she cooked. And then obviously breakfast would be, I had a toaster in my room, so I'd make a slice of toast. And then at school I had my lunch. And I was there for a couple of years, really.
Okay. And then you left school.
Yeah, I left school and I went to this Barclays bank, YTS.
And then what happened from that point?
So I realised there was one thing that happened when I was at Barclays Bank, not a good thing, that I went to a casino. And like, I must have been 18. I thought, I've never been to a casino. How does this all work? And I thought, okay, I'll play pontoon or blackjack, 21. So I thought, yeah, I can count to 21 just about. So I got paid, and I think I got £250 a month at this stage, and I cash it in, and so I think I wrote a check for £50. That was it. Got £50, and I won some money. I like won 50 quid. So I thought, I've won I came out with £100. I thought, I want to go back and do that again. So I went back the next day, another £50 check, won again. I thought, this is a great way to make money. I think I've cracked it. So then I went back quite a few times, and I won quite a few times, and I thought, okay, this is good. Next time I get paid, I'm going to come back again. And then I wrote a check for £50, and I lost it all. And I thought, don't worry, come back, and I'll write a check for £100, and I'll win more back. And I lost that. And then I thought, I'd write another check for £50 and lost all that. Then I wrote, now bearing in mind, I'd only got like £250 in my bank account, and the checks back in the day would take 3 days to get to the bank. And I was thinking, I've just got to make sure I get the money in the bank before the checks get there. Bearing in mind, I worked at the bank. Anyway, it was getting out of control, and I'd written more checks than I had money in the bank. And then I got a call from the bank manager to say, Sean, we've had all these checks come in. You haven't got enough money in your bank account, and they're all made out to this casino. What's going on? And I had to obviously come clean. And obviously I realised that wasn't the way to make money. But I'm really glad I learned that lesson early on,
Yeah.
because I think gambling can be an addiction, and I know a lot of people that spend a lot of money on gambling, and so that was a harsh lesson. So I was told that if I couldn't go there again, and if I did, I would lose my job.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Oh yeah. So the question was, what after that? Yeah, I needed another way. And one decision I made when I was at the bank, and this is in the second year, I looked at everyone around me who was working there, who'd been there for 10 and 20 years. And I thought, they're all suits, great suits, and, you know, nothing against anyone in banks, but I thought, I don't want to be like them. I need to make money. And someone I knew, I met in a pub. I worked in a pub in the evenings, that was it. And he said to me, he was working as an estate agent and he was making a lot of money. And he said, there's a job going. And I thought, that's what I want to be doing. So I applied for a job there.
And so part of getting a job as an estate agent
Yeah.
is you need a driving license and a car
Yeah.
to get around between viewings. So when you were interviewing and applying for jobs as an estate agent,
Yeah.
what did that process look like?
Well, first of all, I went into the company that he was working for in Daventry, called Taylor's, and they were part countrywide, the biggest, and they said no. They just said no. So I went to the other estate agents in Daventry, and they said no. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go to somewhere else. The next big town.
And you were 18.
Yeah, must have been about 18. Yeah. And so I went to Northampton, got a bus there, and it was a Saturday, and it was raining, and I went into the estate agent and said, any jobs going? No. Can I leave my CV or letter? Yep. And very, very little response. You know, one person said, let's have a chat. But it came to the end of the day. I was soaking wet. I thought, I've been to them all, but there's one left, which is Taylor's. I thought, well, I can't go there because everybody said no, but it's a different town. Let's just go in. I've got nothing to lose. So I went in, said, any job? And this guy said, yeah, I'll get someone to come and see you. I thought, brilliant. Sit down, wait. And I was waiting for about 10 or 15 minutes. And I thought, I better find out the name of this person. I said, who's coming down to meet me? And they said, it's this guy, Bob Butler. And I went, oh no, that's the guy that said no to me in Daventry. And I thought, I've got to go. So I was literally just getting up to leave, and he was coming down the stairs, and I went, and I just wanted to say, and before I could say anything, he went, I've seen you before. I like the fact that you're determined and have come back. Come on, let's have another chat. And I went, okay, yeah. And he said, look, I like your determination. I like your attitude, but you've got to get rid of that disco suit, because I had this flecked 3-piece suit on. Get rid of the white socks, get rid of the disco shoes, he said. But, have you got a driving license? And I said, yep, got a driving license. Got a car? Yep, got a car. Thinking, okay, I'll get one, that's what I'm thinking. I'll have to get a car and get a driving license. And he said, okay, well, I want you to start Monday. And I went, oh, okay. And this was like, Saturday, maybe a Monday in a week's time. So I think I've got a week. So I thought, all right, I need to get a driving test. So I was ringing up any tests going, or DVLA was, any tests available for me to take.
Did you learn to drive?
I'd had some lessons. Yeah,
Okay.
I'd had some lessons, but hadn't taken a test. So they said, no, there's nothing available, maybe for like 2 or 3 months. And I went, well, what about anywhere else in the country? No, nothing. And she said, you just got to ring up every day and see if there's a cancellation. So every day, ring it up. No. And the third day, they said, we've got one. Yeah, got it tomorrow in Derby. I'm thinking, where's Derby? And how am I going to get there? So, and I haven't got a car. So I had to ask a friend to drive me there. And there was a company called the British School of Motoring, and you could rent their cars. So I rented their car. I'm in the car, taking my test, and it all went completely wrong. I hit the curb on a roundabout. When I was reversing, I hit the curb again. I was just thought, I failed this, and I was demoralised, because this job was my way out of being poor. And I thought, anyway, at the end of it, I just broke down and started crying. I just look back now. And the guy who took the test said, what's wrong? And I said, I just needed this test to get a job. And I've got the job. I start next Monday. but I need a driving license. And I think he just felt sorry for me. And it was actually around the time of my birthday, and he just passed me. And I went, oh my God. You know, when like someone wins X Factor and they go, oh, I was like, oh my God, this is my chance. And I was so happy. I was so sad, then I was so happy. I thought, oh great, I've got my driving license. But obviously when I started the job, they said they wanted to know where my car was. And I said, oh, you wouldn't believe what's happened. And my girlfriend's crashed the car, so I'm going to have to buy a new car, thinking when I get paid at the end of the month, then I'll buy a car. So I had to sort of like drag it out, saying I'm looking for a car and I can't find one, and just dragged it out for a while until they said, have you got a car yet? And yeah, and I had to say I'd got a car, but I didn't have a car, and I literally was running to my appointments for weeks and weeks and weeks, which was fine because I'd leave early. It'd be my lunch break, and I'd say, I'm just going for lunch now, and say it was 12 o'clock, and I'd have an appointment at 1 o'clock. I said, what I'll do is I'll go for my lunch and I'll go straight to my appointment. But really, I was leaving at 12 o'clock to go to my appointment. And I remember one time when it was summertime, I'd got my suit on, and I was running a bit late, and I had to run all the way. It was miles to this appointment to get there.
Literally miles.
Oh yeah, miles, like, 3 or 4 miles to get there. Yeah, running, so like a good half an hour to run there. Got there, dripping with sweat, right, just in time. And I said, oh, are they here? And it went to the owners, and the owners go, oh, they're not here yet. And I said, oh, we'll just wait around. 5 minutes gone, 10 minutes gone. And then I said, oh, no mobile phones. So I said, oh, can you just ring the office and see if they've turned up at the office by mistake, or rang the office to say they're running late, and said, no, the office hasn't heard from them. I went, okay, well, look, we'll give them 5 more minutes, then I'll go. Didn't turn up. So I went, okay. Went all the way back to the office, ran back, get to the office, and they said, oh, the owners have just rang. They've just arrived. Can you go back? So I had to run all the way back. And I got a time, by the time I got there, they just finished viewing, and they came outside, and I said, oh, how did it go? Did you like it? No, not really. No. I went, oh, okay. Any chance of a lift back to town? So then I got my lift back, and weeks went by, and it was all a bit awkward, and especially on a Monday, because Monday would be a day when we had to go and get photographs, Polaroid photographs, for the newspaper advert. And so what would happen if you put a house on the market on Friday or Saturday or Sunday? Normally you take photographs, someone would come and collect the photographs on a Monday, and they'd come back on a Tuesday, did the next day. But we needed the photographs for Monday. So the only way was to get a Polaroid photograph, and you had to get those on a Monday. So every Monday the manager would be going, right, who's going to go and take the photographs of all the new listings? We've got 6 new listings. And I'd be thinking, there's no way I can go. And I'll be hiding myself, not catching eye contact with the manager. So I didn't get that job. And then each week I would avoid doing that job because I didn't have a car. And then one week they said, we've only got 1 this week to go and get. Anyone want to get? And I went, oh, I'll get it, thinking I could get 1. And I said, oh, where is it? And he said, Woodford House. And I went, oh, no, that was like 10 miles away. So I had to get a taxi, which cost me about £10 to get there. When I got there, the sun was right behind the house. So I took the picture, and it was a really terrible picture because the sun was behind the house. But that's all I could do. So I got the taxi back, gave him the photograph. He said, no, it's not good enough. We need to go and do it again. I said, oh, well, that's how the sun is. And they said, I have to go back later. And I said, oh, I've got appointments. But anyway, it was just challenging. But it's one of those things, like, you just got to find a way. And then people were covering for me. People in the office I opened up to were letting me borrow their car until I finally bought a car.
And I know there's a story there as well.
Buying
the car.
Well,
there seems to be a recurring theme across a lot of this, where it's just,
I didn't have much money.
Yeah.
And one of the cars I bought, I think I know what you're referring to. I actually had a few cars, and a few things went wrong. Like, one car I bought, this is the first car I bought. It was like a big day, like getting your first car, and I was so pleased. And I was like out with my friend. I said, let's go out in the car, and let's go to the pub, and let's drive to another pub, and let's drive around, and we'd had a few to drink, which is completely wrong, and I know that, but not too many. But and then we went, where should we go now? And we went, well, let's go to Watford Gap, which was a service station, because all the pubs were closed. It was getting late. He lived in Northampton. He said, oh, can you drive all day, all night? So he's going, can I have a go? Can I have a go? Can I have a go? And he was going, no. And then we get to the end of his road in Northampton. He said, let me just go to, my house. We're at the end of the road. And I went, oh, go on then. And he literally put his foot down as fast as he could, lost control, spun the car and smashed into someone else's car on their driveway. I was in the driver's seat, like, ow, I mean, what's going on? The car alarm's going off on this car we'd hit. Lights are going on all round. He does a runner and I'm stranded in the car in my seatbelt going, what's happened? And I thought, oh God, I need to run. So I ran as well. And then I had to get to the main road and then I had to try and thumb a lift home at, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. But I had to hide in case there was a police car coming and then, no, that's a normal car. Let's try and thumb a lift. I think in the end I must have walked halfway home and got a lift and I got home and then the next morning my mum was waking me up at 6 o'clock in the morning going, Sean, the police are at the door. And I went, oh, why? She said, someone's stolen your car and crashed it. And I went, oh no. Oh. And then the police were saying, oh yeah, did you know you found your car and blah, blah, blah. And I went, oh gosh, oh dear. But I think they knew, because they came round the next day and they said, look, we can't prove anything, but all I'm going to say to you, Sean, is if you try and claim on your insurance, then, we'll look at this further and that would be obviously bad. And anyway, so I didn't claim on the insurance, but
so you lost that money.
I lost that money.
Yeah.
And that car and that friend, because suddenly he wasn't a friend anymore. And then I bought another car and I only had 50 quid. So, and I bought it at night so it's in the dark. And I thought 50 quid. I mean, even if it's got tax on it, the tax is worth more than 50 quid. Anyway, got this car. When I got home and woke up the next morning, it was like a Marina, which is, anyway, you won't know what that is, but it'd been hand painted green, and you can see the brush marks on the, it was terrible. I thought, I cannot let anyone see me in this car. And then it broke down anyway, very, very soon. So it didn't even last, probably a week or two. And then I needed another car. And then this lady, I went to see her and I said, can I pay by check? And she said, yeah. And so I wrote a check and I'm trying to remember, it was probably about £250, this check. Thinking by the time, she's an old lady, by the time she gets to the bank in a few days' time, and by the time she pays it in and it takes 3 days to clear, I'll have been paid. And
so you didn't have the £250?
No, actually, sorry, I think it was £500. And
which you didn't have.
Which I didn't have, no.
But you wrote the check anyway.
Yeah, or was it £250? Anyway, so I wrote the check, and literally she must have banked it the same day. Express clearance, which means you pay extra to get the money in your bank account. They're like the same day or the next day. And she rings me, said, the next day saying, this check's bounced. And I'm going, oh my God, well, that's odd. I don't understand why. I'll have to check with the bank. I'm sure if you just represent it, it'll be fine. And she must have just represented it the next day. And she's ringing me up the next day. And I'm going, I'm going to get paid soon. God, why can't you just wait? Anyway, it bounced again. And then I get a call from my sort of area manager ringing me on the day I was getting paid, said, I need you to come to Toaster. I've had a complaint that you've written a check and it's bounced. I want you to come and see me. So I go and see him and he says, this lady says the check's bounced. I said, I don't understand. The money's in the bank account. It should. And he said, so have you got the money in your bank account? I said, yes. He said, well, I want you to go and get it today and take the cash to her today. And I went, okay, yeah, I'll do that. I think I paid £500 for the car. And I think I may have had given her £250 cash and written the check for £250. It was something like that. So it cost me £500. But I was getting paid that day. Oh no, that was it. I paid her £500. That was it. And I was getting paid £250 that day. So then I thought, right, I'm going to need to sell this car. So I went to a car dealer. I said, look, I paid 500 quid for this car. How much would you give me for it? And they said 250. And I thought, I paid 500 for it. I thought, well, if I'm going to get 250 for it, and then my wages today are 250, that's £500. So I've got to sell the car for 250, get the 250 out of my bank account, get to Northampton. So I had to get a lift over to Northampton, give her the £500. So I was back to square one with no car and no money. And I went, oh no. Again. It was just tough. So there's lots of issues with cars. But eventually, I got a company car. And that was amazing. I mean, because it was relatively new. I mean, in our family, we'd never had a car. I'd only had the old cars. And to get a relatively new car with a cassette deck, you could play tapes in it. I was like over the moon to have a company car. That was a big moment for me.
Coming back to, before we carry on with business stuff, just on your sister, what was that like?
Do you know what? One thing I have got from having a sister in a wheelchair is an appreciation of being able to walk, having legs. There's lots of disabilities. People who've lost their eyesight, people who have got, no arms or whatever. Can't function properly. Either that's mentally as well. I went to a lot of clubs where for the disabled, so there's a disabled swimming club. There'd be other disabled, events going on. So I saw a lot of disabled people, and I learned to appreciate the fact that I was healthy. And I think if you've got your health, you've got a lot to be grateful for and happy about. It was very, very difficult at times. I mean, little things that sound easy, like going into town. We'd have to push a wheelchair into town, then get the shopping and then carry the shopping and push a wheelchair. Going on a trip was always, we'd have to get, my mum did have a car at one point, and, to put a wheelchair in the car. And then if we went on a holiday, you can imagine a lot of the holidays we had, either camping or there was charities set up for disabled people where there'd be maybe a narrow boat that had been converted for wheelchairs, or a mobile home, like a caravan that had been converted for a wheelchair. So it'd be in a disabled converted, holiday home or something. It made me appreciate things.
So how old was she when she passed away?
She was about...
And how old were you?
She was probably about 4 or 5 years older than me. And I was probably in my late 20s, and she would have been 32, something like that. If I was 28, she might have been 30 something.
So probably not long before I was born.
Yeah, you're right.
Wow. And then in terms of your relationship with your dad...
When I look back, I don't remember anything we did together. He was a coach driver. And so he would go on, coach trips. So we'd do a coach tour for people going around, I don't know, Scotland or Wales, or even into Europe. So he was away for a lot of the time. And there wasn't a good relationship with him and my mum. And there would be, terrible fights. I see him pulling her hair, and natural reaction was her taking a shoe off and having a heel and threatening him. And then he tried to drown her in the bath, and put her head underwater under the tap. And she'd tell me stories about what he did to her.
But looking back now, why do you think he was like that? How much do you know about his upbringing?
He was Irish, and I don't know about what his parents were like. Maybe they were very strict. Interestingly enough, both of my parents were married before. So they were both married before they met each other. And when they got married together, I don't think the Church of England or whatever church, you're allowed to get divorced and get married. So then my mum became a Catholic, went to the Catholic church where I think you can. And maybe my dad was Catholic as well. I don't even remember meeting his family, and I have this feeling that he had other children. I don't know why I think that, but he had which I'd never met, by the way, and then I met his brother once when we had to go to their wedding, but that was obviously, you don't really get to see him because they were getting married and having things done, but we were there. But there was very little, and both my parents have died, so I didn't have grandparents.
What was his name?
Dennis.
Yeah. And so then he killed himself.
Yeah, and I think There was probably, I don't know the reasons, but there was a couple of things that happened. First of all, obviously, marriage had broken down. Financially, I don't think he was well off. Definitely didn't have a good relationship with his kids. And something did happen. When he was a coach driver, he was also doing coach driving for kids, taking the kids to school in a coach. And I do remember one instance where he was reversing the coach and a young boy got his bag or something caught under the wheel, and the boy got caught under the wheel as well and was killed. So I suspect that played on his mind, because I don't know, but I can imagine if he carried on that job, and especially if there's other kids, what kids are like, oh, you've murdered one of our friends, I don't know. We never talked about it, I never heard from him, and it was just a shock, really.
So when he did kill himself, I mean, what was that experience?
I was actually quite angry. I was actually annoyed and thought that it was selfish at the time.
Were you there? Like,
no, I think he jumped in front of a train.
Okay.
I don't know the full story. I mean, my mum was telling me, oh, it was an accident. I think he fell off the train, or, but I think I don't know. But anyway, it was suicide, and I don't know exactly what happened or where it happened, but it was definitely a train. But I just thought, how selfish to, do what you want for you, but you've just taken, a dad away from me, that. Mm-hmm. So I just thought it was very selfish and unfair. Obviously now I understand there's a reason, and, he must have been in a very, very dark place, and life was difficult, and probably felt there was nothing more to do. I don't know. I've put it behind me, and I'm have to look at it in a positive way, that it is what it is. I don't know. But I'm not angry, and I'm not upset. I'm not,
So what's been the process of changing the meaning of that experience over time and overcome it? Because a lot of people would experience something like that, and they would then take a different direction and maybe use it as a reason or as a story to act a different way.
Yeah, I just thought it was taking the easy way out. I just thought it was selfish. I just thought, it didn't. But then I think as time's gone on, I understand that is, people do that. Lots of people, too many people do, and too many people get into this dark place and don't think there's any way forward. And, now I actually feel sorry for him. I feel sad for him. I wish we'd had a better relationship. Wish we could have talked, but obviously I was only 12, 13 maybe. So who would I be to talk to about his issues, or to be able to even understand what he's going through in his life? But it would be nice if he had someone to talk to, and, I don't know. It's one of those things I will never know. And I didn't really have a relationship with him. And so I haven't got many memories about him, to be honest.
How often do you think about it?
That he killed himself?
And about him in general?
Very rarely, very, very rarely. Only sometimes when now, like we're talking about him, but I don't know when his birthday is. I don't go, I don't know the anniversary of his death. Some people go, oh, this is the day that my mum or my dad died. I don't know. I don't know his date of birth. I don't know his family. It's almost like I can barely remember what he looked like, really. Wow. Probably, I don't even think we've even got a photograph together. That's pretty bad, isn't it?
Which is a totally different experience to what I've had with you. And I know you've been very intentional as a father and an amazing role model. And so when you made that decision to become a dad, or you found out you're becoming a dad, what was your mindset going into that stage of your life?
Well, I was very clear that we wanted to have kids at the right time. So we talked about it. It was planned. I'd got friends that have had kids when they're 18 or 19 or 20, and I thought, no, we need to make sure myself and Caroline, your mum, have a chance to live our lives, do loads of stuff we want to do, but also have I said, well, let's make sure we've got a really nice house, we've got a really nice income, we've got our lives in a good place, ready, so that we're prepared and organized and financially ready. So we, I was 30 when you came along. Oh yes, like the best thing in the world. Like you haven't experienced this yet, but having kids is the most fulfilling, enjoyable part of life. Like nothing really can top that. I'm sure there's parents that have got, when they, there's times when the kids are screaming and they're hungry or they're playing up, but it's just an amazing, wonderful journey. When people say, oh, what's the best age? There isn't a best age. Every age is a good age. It's a different, but yeah, we were planned, we were prepared, and we knew that we were going to be good parents. So we actually read loads of books and made loads of sort of conscious decisions on what we would do and what we wouldn't do.
And what were those decisions? What was your philosophies you arrived at?
So there was lots of learnings. And I remember as a child, my parents, or my mum and my dad, were very much, I remember don't do that, don't do this, like hold your knife and fork properly, don't eat with your mouth full, get your elbows off the table, like don't do. And it was a lots of, and I actually realized that parents unconsciously are saying to their kids all the time, don't do that, or they're saying no to their kids, and I think it's something ridiculous. You could find this on Google or ChatGPT, how many times a parent says no to a child per day. I mean, it's hundreds of times, over a week or year, it's thousands of times. Not just no, but something like stop doing that, can't do that. And the key, or one of the keys, is not to have so many rules, because otherwise you, as a parent, you will literally be spending all of your days telling your kids off, and that isn't good for the kids. Try and find things that they are doing right and positive and encourage. We definitely wanted you and someone to try different things, because you don't know what you're going to like. We've got you some golf clubs, we played football, or someone said to me recently, she goes, Dad, I remember for one birthday you bought me a guitar. She goes, I've no idea why you bought me a guitar, but it's like she probably had a recorder and you had some drums, and you might have loved the drums or you may have hated the drums, but different sports, different adventures. So I would say one of the key things that hopefully you've realized is, and parents will realize, that kids don't do what you say, they do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say that if you want your kids to be a certain way, you've got to be that way. Be the person you want your kids to be. So unknowing to you, or maybe that you have unconsciously held me accountable. Like I've held myself accountable because I want to be a good role model or a good example to you or to Summer. So it's actually meant, like, would I want Tyler to do this, or would I want Tyler to see this? And so I've actually, adapted my life to be a good example.
And so just building on that, I've had, and I'm sure you have as well, comments over the years from friends and just people that have kind of seen the dynamic between the family and Summer, my sister, who, for context, for those watching, has a very successful media company, YouTube channel, doing amazing things. And they've asked the question, how has it come about that, Tyler, you're doing all these things and have success and wins in business, health, whatever, and then also your sister's had that as well? I always make the point that that's probably not by accident or by coincidence, but what would you say the reasons for that are?
Well, what we've never done is told you what to do. We've certainly encouraged you. My message always been to do what you enjoy doing, do what you like doing. And when it comes to sort of your future, obviously one of the big questions was, do you go to university or not? And I didn't go to university, and I know probably when you're at school, they naturally want to push you in a certain direction. And my thoughts were that, you know, I was encouraging you to be an entrepreneur, not by telling you to be an entrepreneur, but being an entrepreneur myself, for an example. But, you know, to find a not get a job, be your own boss. I think that was the message. Be your own boss. To do something where you're running your own business. You're not working for someone else, and you have to ask someone if I can have a week's holiday or can I have an afternoon off. So if you be your own boss, also do something where you can do it from anywhere, because then you're not tied. Because I just found in my business go back a decade or two, if you have a business, you have to have an office, and then you have to have staff, and then you have to go to that office every day, and you have to manage those staff. Obviously the world's changed now, and you don't have to have an office, you don't have to have staff. But I think I've probably encouraged learning. I mean, you know, we've been to events together. Tony Robbins was probably a big influence on your life, and encouraging you to learn. Like I almost didn't learn when I was at school. Like I wasn't a good learner. I didn't like school, but it's funny enough, when I left school, I started learning things I had to learn because I was going into business. But when I realized I could learn what I want rather than being told to learn physics or mathematics, things I didn't like, I could learn what I want, and then I could learn it when I want, you know, and then how I want, whether I wanted to read a book or listen to something, or back in the day, listen to tapes or listen to a CD, and listen to it when I want and the people I wanted to, and learn the things I wanted to learn. I actually became more of a learner, and I learned more outside of school because you're learning stuff you want to learn about, and from people that have actually done it. You know, I think in school, I remember you saying once that, you know, you'd got business studies. You're right, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to do business studies. And you said that your teacher had not only never had a business, he'd never even worked in a business, and everything was from a textbook. And I think it even, you know, I don't think he was a good example for you to learn from. So how did you, or I don't know, that's probably a good question for you, really.
I think there's definitely been an element of just following suit, and you've definitely led the way, both you and Mum.
Yeah.
So, you know, I want to shout out to Mum and everything she's done. I think, and this might become more apparent as we talk about other things throughout this conversation, and this is an observation I've actually probably only had more recently in my life, as I've then had friends where things might be obvious for me are not so obvious for them. One example, which is in some recent conversations about, I've got friends that want to sign up for an Iron Man, or want to do a marathon, or want to do whatever. And for me, when I've made the decision to do those things, and we'll talk about those adventures we've been on in the past, it's been a pretty easy decision. I've learned, the kind of what's been programmed into me is you just commit, make the decision, and figure the rest out as you go, which we've got many examples of. But then I've had other friends where maybe throughout their life, they've been told by their parents, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. And so when it comes to making decisions and taking risks, they're very much, their default is, oh, don't do that, and haven't had that self-belief programmed into them. And I think that's another thing, is I've had instilled into me this belief that you can do anything. And again, that's from seeing you do challenges and commit to challenges, and then doing them, and then doing them together and reinforcing that belief system. It's like, okay, cool, we've set a goal, whether it's a business goal, whether it's to do an Iron Man together, which when I first signed up to an Iron Man, I'd never even ran a half marathon before, let alone done a triathlon or a half Ironman or a full marathon. In fact, the first marathon I ever ran was on the day of an Ironman. But for many people, it's like, oh no, you do the half marathon first, you do a mini triathlon, and then a half Ironman. But that just would never occur to me. And I can't figure out, I was having a conversation with some friends while we were running earlier this week. It's like, oh, they want to do a half Ironman. I'm like, why would it even be across your mind to just do a half Ironman first? If you want to do the real thing, just to commit to doing the real thing. So there's definitely a number of things.
It's true. Like when I first signed up to do an Ironman, and you must have been sort of 8 years old, I think, I thought, right, I've signed up for this Ironman. I better join the triathlon club. So I joined the triathlon club, and I said, right, so I'm doing an Iron Man. And they were going, when? You've only just joined the club. Like, there was people that had been there for 3 or 4 years that said, oh, well, one day I'm going to do an Iron Man. At the moment, I'm just doing the sprint distance or this distance or a half distance. And I'm going, oh, is it that hard then? And they were going, well, when you doing it? I'm going, like in 6 months. But I didn't know anything different. And you just focus on what you've got to do. And, I'm a big believer in anyone can do anything.
But where did that belief system stem from? Because for me, I had you.
Yeah.
And then it's one thing being told that, and then to then really build evidence on that belief and really condition your mind to actually believe that to be true and develop that self-belief. You then have to go prove it to yourself, which I've done multiple times. But for you, where did that mindset come from?
Well, just to give you a bit of background, at school, I was not athletic. I didn't play any sports, didn't play cricket. I mean, you went to a great school, we're playing cricket, football. Like, football for us was kicking a stone in the playground. Yeah, that was like football. If we did have a game of football and they picked teams, I would probably be the last to be picked. I'd got no coordination for anything really. So I wasn't a sports person, and I had no one to play sports with, so it was probably not until you were born, and when sort of health started being important to me, and I was working hard. We would work 7 days a week. I never went to the gym, and then something happened. So I mentioned my mum met this new boyfriend, and his name was Don, and my mum got Parkinson's. And this Don was a very keen cyclist. And he said to her, I'm going to raise money for Parkinson's disease. And I'm going to cycle from Land's End to John O'Groats to raise money.
Which, for context, is the very southern point of the UK.
To the north.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like 1,000 miles, depending on the route you take. Anyway, so cut a long story short, he was training. He'd got the date. He'd got some sponsorship. And then he was out on his bike and had a heart attack and died. So we were at his funeral, and I was there, and my mum was in tears, and it was very emotional. And my mum said to me, we've got this Land's End to John O'Groats. It was called Don's Challenge event. It's supposed to be happening in 4 or 5 months' time. And now we've got the route, we've got the sponsorship, and Don's now died. And I said, don't worry, Mum, I'll do it. I didn't have a bike, haven't been on a bike, and I went, but I thought, if he could do it, I can do it. So I had to go and buy a bike. Anyway, before you know it, 2 or 3 months went by. The event's in a month's time. I haven't trained enough. And then I found out that all these things that had been arranged hadn't really been arranged. There was no real sponsorship. It was like £1,000 had been raised. And I'm thinking, I'd rather pay £1,000 than do the right. So I said, we haven't got enough sponsorship, so I'm going to put the date back to raise more money. Really, I was putting the date back to get some more training. So I did the bare minimum, and the day came to start doing the bike ride. And luckily, we started on a Saturday, and a friend was going to do the first Saturday and then the Sunday with me. And we did the first day.
Who was the friend?
So his name was Lawrence Webster, and he was my accountant, actually, and he was into his cycling. So we did the first day, and it was tough, like 90 miles. Did the second day, and it was tough again. But when they say it's not the day after a challenge or an event, it's the day after, the third day. So he did the first 2 days. The next day I was on my own, and I was aching. And I thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? So I started that day, and at some point there was just this long upward hill, and I was on the bike, and I just didn't have anything left, and I was in absolute agony, and I just stopped and broke down and thought, shit, this is like day 3 of I think it was 9 days, because there's a weekend each end. So 9 days, it's day 3. I can't go on. I'm in absolute agony. So I literally broke down in tears. No phone signal. Couldn't ring anyone. And I was just crying because I thought, like, get emotional just to even think about it. I thought, I've let my mum down. I've let Don down. I'm literally looking up going, I've let you down, Don. I've let my mum down. All these people who've sponsored me, all my friends, like, and I'd been in the paper going, I'm going to do this 1,000-mile for Parkinson's disease. And thought, that's it. I'm going to have to give up. And after an hour of feeling sorry for myself, I thought, okay, well, look, what's stopping me? I'm not going to die. It's just the pain in my legs. Like, so I thought, if I could just do one pedal down and then just do another pedal down. So I thought, right, I'm going to give it a go. And I did the first pedal. It was like someone stabbing me in the leg with a knife. And it was like, ah. And I did another one, ah. I thought, just one more, ah. And another one, and another one. And it was just one more. And anyone who's done a long journey will know, is it that a journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step? And I kept going, and again, and one more. And then I got to the top of this hill, and I thought, oh my God, I'm up here. Now it's downhill. Okay, I can do the downhill. And then I just kept going slowly. So then I got to the end of day 3. And cut long story short, I managed to carry on. And at the point, there was a point now I got nothing left. And yet 9 days later, I managed to finish a 1,000-mile bike ride. And I'm going, wow, I did it. When I believed I couldn't do it and I didn't have anything left. And I thought, it just shows what the body can do. The mind had given up, but the body could. And I thought, I wonder what else I could do. Maybe I could do a marathon. And so I entered a marathon.
I wanted to ask you about this.
Yeah.
First marathon
my
experience.
First marathon, again, was a friend. I did it for a charity. So that we raised a lot of money for Parkinson's. That was a great feeling for my mum. And my mum was proud. You imagine at the end, I don't know whether you remember this. Maybe you could find a photograph of you. Do you remember any of this? There's probably a picture of you at the beginning and at the end. You've just been pretty small. And, Caroline was there. My mum was there. And whoa. So you get the significance, which is lovely. You've raised money for the people. People are feeling proud of you. Your achievement is amazing. And that was quite a good feeling. And I thought, what else could I do? So there was a charity called Deborah, which like it was called The Boy Whose Skin Fell Off, and he'd got this disease. And anyways, it was an emotional TV program. I thought, I'm going to raise money for that charity, and I'm going to do a marathon. So I entered the London Marathon. Again, I did it with a friend, and we just didn't have time to train. And I think we did 6 miles, maybe 3 or 4 weeks before, maybe 3 weeks. And literally the week before, we did 13 miles, on the Saturday. And I'm going, right, it's going to be in a week's time. So we've done half a marathon. And then I got to the London Marathon. It was the hottest day ever. And I just took it easy. Anyway, I got to about 13 miles. And I thought, this is the furthest I've ever run in my whole life. And I'm done. I'm absolutely dead. There's no way I can go on. And I was looking for spaces in the crowd to get out. And there was railings, and the crowd was 6 or 7 people deep, yeah? And it's a hot day, so they've all got pints of beer and ice creams. I'm sweating hot, and they're going, and I was going, I'm trying to get out, and they're going, no, come on. And you know what it's like? They're clapping you, and you've got your name on your shirt. They go, come on, Sean. I'm going, just want to get out. It's all right for you. Let me out. And they go, come on, keep going. So I was literally walking, looking for a space. But then before you know it, you've walked a mile, and you go, okay, I'm at 14 miles. Actually, this is further. And then you walk a bit further, and you go, I can jog a little bit. And then somehow you realize you finished, and you go, wow, I did it. What else could I do? And then looked at the next challenge and the next challenge. And the reason I did these challenges was to test how, you don't know how far you can go or what you can do until you push yourself. So one, I wanted to push myself to see how far I could go, see what's possible, because I always believed myself as not an athletic person. I wasn't a fitness fanatic or anything. So what could I do? Also, I thought I knew I needed to get fit, but I didn't want to go to the gym. I didn't want to go running. But if I know I've got a marathon to train for, you think, I've got a marathon coming up, I need to get out and do some running, or I've got a cycling event, I need to go out on a bike, or I've got a swimming event, I need to go out. So by setting yourself a challenge, it gives you a purpose to get a reason to get fit or do the exercise. And then if you're raising money for a good cause, there's nothing more rewarding or fulfilling than helping others or doing something good. And then, yeah, you do get a bit of significant when people say, wow, that's amazing. I can't believe I'd never be able to do a marathon. And I'm thinking, you could, anyone could.
So for those listening to this, that there's going to be some that are listening that in the back of their mind as we're having this conversation, they're thinking, yeah, I do want to do that marathon, ultra marathon, triathlon, whatever it is. I guess what you're saying to them is don't wait and try and get ready to then make the decision, because you'll always find reasons why you shouldn't do it, why you can't do it. You make the decision, and then that gives you the purpose. You get your back against the wall. A bit like what I did with the Marathon des Sables recently. I just made the decision to join on the first week of January. It was 3-4 months away. I'd only ran half a marathon the year prior. And when I say ran a half marathon, I mean I'd only ran 21 kilometers combined for that whole year. But I've learned through observing you and doing this multiple times with marathons and triathlons is the body can adapt. The body will always adapt to the training. And then I announced it publicly straight away that I was doing it, because I know then there's no backing out. You're going to get your back against the wall.
But it's like anything in life, like any goal, should I say, that you set the goal and then, announce it, or because if you make it public, share it with someone and then put a plan together. So, a marathon, there is a training plan. Not that I had one, but there is a training plan you could follow. And actually, if you do the training... Not that we've ever stuck to them either. Yeah, the event is so much easier.
True.
And, obviously other events, I have trained for them.
I heard something yesterday. It was, when it comes to making the right decision, don't worry about making the right decision. Worry about making the decision right. So make the decision, then make that the right decision. So on the topic of challenges, July 2010, I was woken up by Mum early one morning, basically saying that you were about to die and we needed to go and basically say our goodbyes, because you'd pretty much been killed and on the brink of death. What do you remember about that experience?
Yeah, so that was another cycling challenge. We'd obviously done Land's End to John O'Groats, and I did John O'Groats to Land's End, so I'd done, the whole of England. Someone suggested, why don't we do America? And I went, yeah, why not? It was a friend who got cancer, actually, and we wanted to raise money for cancer charities. And we went, yeah, let's cycle from Los Angeles to Florida, 3,000 miles. I don't know how long we were expecting to take. And we set off, and we got probably 2,000 miles in to Baton Rouge, which is near New Orleans, yeah. And then a truck from behind hit me at about 60 miles an hour. Luckily, it was from behind as opposed to, but literally smashed my bike. I don't remember anything about it. I've just seen a photograph.
Do you remember anything of that day?
Nothing really. No. So I've seen photographs of my bike, which was carbon fiber, which is supposed to be really strong, just smashed to bits. I had a helmet, but that was smashed. And I'd broken just most of my bones in my body. And when these motorcyclists stopped, they were first responders, they saw me and went, well, he's dead. We might as well see if we can help the other guy. And James, and they went to him, and then I must have spluttered. And they went, oh, he's alive. Let's work on him. Thank you to them.
Unfortunately, one of them was an off-duty paramedic. Is that right?
Paramedic, yeah. First responder.
And so I think you died twice at the scene, or...
Yeah, I was out. And then I was in a coma, and I think for at least a week.
In terms of the list of injuries, I mean, it was...
So I broke my back. And so in my back now, I've got 2 metal rods and 8 screws. My hips, this hip was shattered, and I've got like 14 screws in this hip, loads of metalwork. If I can dig out an old X-ray, I can maybe send it to you to add to this. Fractured my skull, my arms, wrists, fingers, legs were broken.
Eye socket and the bleeding.
Yeah, and my face. I don't know if you see I've got a scar on one side, where my helmet just into my throat. Yeah, most bones, but I don't. My Caroline tells me my head was swollen when she got to the hospital. It was really like enormous head, swollen, and I was in a coma. And then
Well, I remember getting there, and obviously we were in the UK. Woke up, Mum had we'd been told what happened. Went straight to the airport, get the first flight out. I'm there looking at Mum, who's obviously in tears the whole time, and then of course Summer's in tears. And I remember thinking, shit, okay, I'm might be the man of the house moving forward. And then we went and saw you, and obviously you were beaten up. And every day for that following week or 2 weeks, you're in intensive care unit because you were so drugged up and in and out of coma. You'd say, oh, guys, how long have you been here? It's almost like you've seen us for the first time every day. But one thing from that experience was the doctors that were working on you and the surgeons that were fixing you up. And I even remember there'd been 1 or 2 surgeries where I think I was sat down and the conversation was had that like might not make it out of this surgery, so there's a risk. And but the doctors were saying might never walk again, can't do this, can't do that. So when the doctors are telling you and the surgeons are telling you can't do this, you can't do that, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, well, they told me you're not going to walk again. And that was when I was back in England. I was in a wheelchair and I couldn't walk, but I obviously wanted to be able to walk again. So I was determined that I would be walking again. And there's lots of stories where people are told, "Oh, you'll never walk again," and they do. So I'm going, well, that's going to be me. And so I started going to the gym in the UK, and I'd literally go in my wheelchair and I'd have to hop over into a machine and just do the arms. Or I mean, when I was actually in hospital, I remember I couldn't even lift up a little bar. I mean, my muscles had all gone. Anyway, I went to the gym. I remember going to get in the swimming pool as well. I had my arm in a plaster because I had to have another operation on my arm. I had my arm in the air so it didn't get wet. And I think one leg wouldn't work. And I literally was just kicking with one leg and one hand, doing a backstroke, looking on my back in the swimming pool. And then, I was trying to walk with crutches and I just couldn't put any weight on this hip. And there was a moment when I took a first step, and it was because I try and walk on a treadmill, but obviously you're walking, holding like that. And it was actually in our doctors, and they were going, I just said, I can't walk. And I just took this one step. I thought I was going to collapse on the floor. It's really scary when you're trying to walk again. And then thought, okay, that's one step.
But did it ever occur to you that was there ever a world where you'll never walk again?
No, that didn't. No, that definitely didn't cross my mind that I would be stopped. I would, one way or another, and I wasn't sure how, but I think that's the key, isn't it? You don't need to know how. You just need to know where you're going. And when I was on the treadmill, I remember it was Virgin Gyms, and I was on the treadmill like this, and I was just trying to walk. And I thought, I need something to aim for. And in all these things I've done before, it was having a challenge or having something to aim for that got me to do the exercise. So I entered the LA Marathon, and let's just say it was the end of a year, maybe November or something, and the marathon was in April, something like that. I thought, right, maybe it was 4 or 5 months away. I thought, right, I'm going to enter that. And it was in LA. It wasn't even local. So it wasn't like go down the road and if I couldn't do it, I'm going to LA. And Caroline did it, and then Phil was there, and I think, was it Gary Redmond did it? There's a whole load of people that close friends thought, well, if Sean can do it, we can do it. So we entered it, and then it gave me something to focus on and aim for.
Mum asked me to just bring up one of the stories of training for that marathon when I think you were out on one of the training runs. Maybe it was a 13-mile run, and you were starving, and all you just wanted was something to eat. Do you remember this?
No.
And she found I think she had a last bit of chocolate, which she was just super happy about. And then she dropped it in the puddle.
Oh, yes. I do remember. Yes. That was definitely, yes, I do remember that. That was in LA, and we were just running out, and she said, she said, I'll meet you. And she said, I've just got this last bit of chocolate for you. Here we go. And then she dropped it. Yeah, I remember that.
So just to run through some of the other challenges that you've done, an Ironman in both 2006 and then we did one together in 2016. And
so the one in 2006 was a special moment that when I finished, you and Summer were both at the finish line. And I before the finish line, I grabbed you both out of the crowd and we ran across the finish line together. And I just thought it was that moment for me, just sharing that moment with you and Summer and like, you know, that glory of running over the finish line. And I just wondered how that affected you, because 10 years later we did it together. I mean, did you think?
Well, my memory of the Ironman in 2016 was I actually was scrolling Facebook and saw a news article that someone had passed away or had a heart attack and died while doing the Ironman in what would have been maybe 2014, the year prior, or that year, 2015. I remember seeing that, so, oh, that was the Ironman that Dad did almost 10 years ago. And so I thought, went on the website, and I remember we just thought, well, sign up for it. And I remember texting you saying, should we do it? You said, of course. It's obviously no is just not an option. Yeah. So we signed up for that, and we did some training. We went out on some cycle rides, and it was very much a case that I think 12 weeks out, we were Googling 12-week
training plan,
Ironman training programs. But again, I just knew when you get out there on the day, you get round. And I mean, I'm not as running fit as I'd like to be right now, even though I did the ultra 7-8 months ago. But even a couple of weeks ago, a couple of my friends out here, they said, oh, doing the Dubai Marathon, do you want to do it? And I thought, yeah, we'll do it. And in my head, it's such an obvious choice. In fact, I actually said to one of my friends, I was like, we were talking about different ultra marathons and challenges he wants to do. And I had to tell him, just be careful what you say, because whatever you suggest, and if you ask me to do it, my answer can't be no, because saying no is then defeat, and I only know to say yes. So you either don't say it at all, or if you're going to say it, you've got to be prepared to do it together. But anyway, we did the Ironman. Obviously, we're doing it again in 2026.
Yep.
And you also did the Marathon des Sables in 2007, which I've just completed.
Yeah.
Just briefly, what was your experience of the MDS?
Again, it's supposed to be the toughest, most challenging foot race in the world, and it definitely is challenging.
And for context, it's
6 days, was it? Over
7 days, but 6 stages.
Yeah.
Doing 250 kilometers, about 160 odd miles through the Sahara Desert.
And that's not the tough bit. The tough bit is the fact that you're running on sand, which is challenging if everyone's run on a road and then tried to run on the beach. The heat, 40-degree heat, and then you have to carry everything. You know, imagine running a marathon. That's tough. Running a marathon and carrying all your food for 7 days, and not just your food, your medical supplies, and then your cooking equipment. You had to have, you know, your stove and your pans and all your food, everything you wanted to eat, and all your clothes, and a sleeping bag, basically everything.
Mattress, yeah.
Yeah, and then even the safety stuff, you had to have an anti-venom pump in case you got bitten by a scorpion or a snake. You had to have flares, all this extra weight you had to carry. And then obviously your water, they do give you water, but you're still probably carrying a couple of litres at any one time. So yeah, that was challenging. But again, I do believe that anyone could do it with the right training. And like people say, yeah, but it's mindset, and it is mindset. But if you think it's about physical strength and mental strength, it is. But there's probably other factors which are equally important, which is having the right equipment. Lots of people had the wrong type of socks, and they were getting, or the wrong type of shoes, and they were getting sand in their socks, and then the bottoms of their feet were getting worn away because they were sweaty and they got sand in there, or they didn't have a cap, or you need to be covered up to protect you from the sun, and then you need to be taking salt tablets, all the time for hydration, because if you just have water, it just goes straight through you. You have to have salt so that it absorbs into your body. And if people weren't taking the salt tablets, they didn't have the sun protection cream on, or, they'd get sunstroke. So there's other factors that, you've got to follow. Definitely challenging, but it was an amazing experience because you've got nothing. Like, one thing I learned is, at home, you've got your kitchen and your fridge and your bed, and like there was no, we stayed outdoors. It wasn't even in a tent. It was
even just a chair.
Yeah,
I remember being out there in the desert, just finding a chair to sit on. There wasn't anything.
No. Yeah,
you either lie on the floor,
yeah,
sit on the floor, or you're on your feet.
Yeah. And then when you go to sleep, you're in a sleeping bag in a line with other, I don't know, 7 or 8 different people, and the sand was blowing. The tent blew down in the middle of the night. It was cold. There's no wake up, I'll have a shower. There's no showers, no toilets. There was just nothing, you and your sleeping bag and everything you were carrying. And, if anyone has done a marathon, the best thing at the end of a marathon is you go, finish now. Let's go and get something to eat, go to a restaurant, have a drink, maybe go home, have a shower, sleep in a comfy bed. You get to the end of a stage of this Marathon des Sables, and there's like one bloke clapping like that. And then, food, the only food you're going to get is what you eat. And I remember thinking,
Some powdery.
Yeah. So I had to get the water, make my little stove to boil the water, and you're so hungry, and the water isn't boiled yet. You think, well, that's warm enough, that'll do. So I poured into my dried food, and then you have to let it soak in for like 5 minutes, and I'm stirring it, going, it's been 2 minutes. Oh, that'll do. And then you're eating sort of like half warm, half hydrated, crunchy, I don't know, spaghetti bolognese, and you eat it and go, well, I'm still hungry. What else have I got? But you can't eat all your own rations. So again, when I finished that, and we went to a hotel, and it was probably the worst hotel I've ever stayed in, in the middle of Africa somewhere. But you went, oh my God, there's a bed. Oh my God, there's a toilet. Oh my God, there's a shower. And when you get home, appreciation is so important. I appreciate water so much. We all take it for granted.
Yeah.
I appreciate it because I've been through that where water was precious.
I mean, I can relate to that. Obviously, with the experience recently, I remember flying Ryanair out there. Obviously, Ryanair, it is what it is. It's an experience. But then flying back, you just there's not a complaint that even crosses your mind. And then even just flying economy on long-haul flights, where in the past, I'll be honest, when you fly business and first so much, you start to think...
Take it for granted, don't you?
Yeah, and then actually now, flown economy a few times since this year, I'm it's fine. And actually, when I'm there, sat in that seat, I'm like, it's uncomfortable, but actually, compared to what I endured earlier this year, it's a great contrast.
Just on that quickly, I always think as well, we're in a plane, it's in economy, you think about the richest person in, the pharaohs, for example, or the Romans, the emperor of the Rome, or even the kings 100 years ago. They would never have been in a flight in Ryanair. And if they were, they'd have gone, this is amazing. And so we just have to sometimes remember we're living in a time when we've got all these amazing things that the richest people in the world 100 years ago could never have had.
Just back to the incident or the accident with the cycle across America when you went through, obviously, that event. Do you think that changed you? Yeah.
I mean, I don't believe in God, but I was very grateful that I had a second chance at life, and, you go, wow. And I also thought I need to sort of be able to give something back. I feel like I've had this new chance for this. I even thought if I just had another 10 years, I'd be happy. Before you know it, I think that was 2010. It's now 2025, near the end of 20. So that's 15 years ago. And I'm just great. That's for me is, wow, thank goodness. I mean, 15 years I might not have had. So I'm so grateful for every day. So yeah, it does make you appreciate it. And it's only until you're coming close to death, whether it's yours or someone you know, and we all know someone, unfortunately, people die way younger than they should do. But life is precious. And I know we all hear this, but every day that we wake up and we're alive, we've got something to be grateful for. So yeah, you just need to make the most of every day.
So just to wrap up some of the challenges we've done and you've done. So you've also done a leg of the Tour de France, the Alpe d'Huez leg,
yeah.
which is just however many thousands of meters of just elevation.
That was the Étape du Tour, which is a leg of the Tour de France, the same leg that the Tour do, but 2 or 3 days before they get there, probably 120 odd miles. But the leg I did finish at Alpe d'Huez, that was the end of it. I did that a couple of times actually. It was good, like challenging.
Don't show off too much.
I know, sorry.
We've done Kilimanjaro together, which was an experience. And then 2 that I kind of want to touch and reminisce on is Mount Fuji.
Yeah.
Because I've got a bone to pick with you there.
Okay.
And the Rickshaw Rally.
Okay, yeah.
Which is a slightly different experience, which we'll come on to. So Mount Fuji, I'll start by telling my account of what happened.
I'm glad you're able to talk about it now.
It's
It's probably good therapy for you.
I'm ready to talk about it. So, and maybe now through this story as well, those listening that know me will get a greater perspective on what it's like, living with you and whatever. But so when was this? Do you remember? Was it?
I don't.
It's got to be 10, 11 years ago. We were in Japan on a summer holiday vacation, and one of these holidays where we find ourselves in the middle of nowhere in Japan, and we're in this tiny little village, but behind us is you've got Mount Fuji, which is the tallest mountain in Asia. No, it won't be in Asia because that's Mount Everest, right? But the tallest, one of the tallest in Japan and famous mountain.
It's a volcano as well.
So and so you being you, asked the question, well, shall we go climb it? And I thought, well, I haven't really done any hiking recently. We haven't. Maybe was this the year we were doing Kilimanjaro? And we thought, no,
I don't think so.
So it was completely just, shall we go climb it? How hard can it be?
Well, let's go and see it, and let's see if we can walk up it and see how far we get.
And so I remember thinking, well, don't have any really like hiking boots, no real kind of equipment.
No.
And you said, don't worry about that. We'll figure that out.
I was thinking it was going to be like Ben Nevis.
Yeah.
There's going to be loads of climbing shops all at the bottom somewhere. We could just go into a shop and buy some boots.
So anyway, we go to one of the information desks, tourist centres in the middle of this town village. And they say, oh yeah, if you want to go up, you need to get the train, or the bus, a taxi to here, then a bus to there, and then a train from here, and then a train to there. And you need to leave your hotel at 4 a.m. and you'll get to the bottom of the mountain maybe 8, 9 a.m. And I remember thinking, okay, that's probably a bit too much. But we went down to the bottom of the hotel we were staying at, and there was this one man that didn't speak any English. And you tried to have a conversation with him, as you love to do with people that don't speak the language. Try anyway. And somehow he said, no, if you just get a taxi here, you can be there in 40 minutes and you go up this route. Now, we didn't know at the time that route was was the hardest route to climb the mountain in. And we didn't realize that you've meant to do it in 2 days. So we wake up and I'm under the impression we'll get there, we'll buy some walking boots. There'll be a shop we can buy some water so we can hydrate properly. And I remember just having some Nike running shoes and a 500ml bottle of water.
Yeah. And
we get there, we're like, oh, there's no shop, but we'll just start. It's like, okay, cool, I'll just follow Dad. So we start, and we'll just keep going. And bear in mind, it's a volcano, so you're walking on ash, which is very similar to sand, and you're going zigzag, and every step that you take, your feet are sliding.
Yeah.
And we're probably a few hours in, and we're far off, haven't even scratched the surface of getting to the top of the mountain. And I've ran out of water. It's starting to heat up a little bit. And all of these Japanese and Asian people walking past us the other way are looking at us and laughing because we're in running shoes and shorts.
I'd got flip-flops.
Yeah. And so we eventually get to the halfway point where there's this tiny little shop that maybe sells a pot noodle and some extra water. And then there's also this area where everyone's sleeping.
Yeah.
Or going in and resting and sleep. what's that?
I don't-
What was that all about? And we thought, well, halfway now, or maybe 2/3 up the mountain where this rest point is.
And we had a pot noodle.
We had a pot noodle, had some water, and I just remember like getting close to the top, and I just got the worst heat exhaustion, migraine, sunstroke. We get to the top, and obviously you love to do a photo shoot, so we were getting the photos and walking around, and I was like, I just want to get off this mountain. As we're walking down, I'm throwing up to the side from this sunstroke that we've got, and it gets to the point where we're probably about 2/3 down from the mountain, but we're looking around, it's getting late, and we can't see another single soul on this mountain.
No phone signal.
No phone signal.
Yeah, and the other people we saw on the mountain, they were like army people with rucksacks and boots and poles, and everyone was laughing at us like these tourists and their flip-flops and literally a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, because obviously it gets cold near the top as well.
Yeah. But we do eventually get to the bottom, and it must be 8 o'clock at night, and there's one taxi who's just waiting there. No one else in the car park, no other cars. There's just one taxi. So we lived to tell the tale, but that is very much a case of, that is just the epitome of just commit to doing it. Just put one foot in front of the other, and we'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah, and we were lucky because, lucky for a lot of reasons, because, we did find out afterwards that is the hardest route, and people do take 2 days, and that place that they, people were sleeping would sleep there and then do the summit in the morning, and the next day come down.
Now it's a requirement for people.
Yeah, it is now. Now it's a requirement. You
Yeah.
have to do it in 2 days.
The Rickshaw Rally.
Yeah.
So, not many people know this, because really back then it wasn't obvious to probably document it too much. I mean, there's probably a Facebook page out there somewhere. But we've got a friend, or you've got a friend who's, I guess, a family friend called Gary. And I remember Gary, every year for many years, would do the Gumball Rally.
Yeah.
Which is where you take one of your supercars and you, with a load of 100 other supercar owners, you go drive from London to Ibiza or from Italy to Monaco, and it's this massive spectacle that costs a lot of money. I remember one day Gary comes around to the house with this new Lamborghini that he's just bought to kind of take us out for a spin. And just before he left, I remember asking him, are you doing the Gumball Rally this year, Gary? He said, no, I'm doing the Rickshaw Rally.
Very similar.
Very similar. I said, oh, what's that? And I think you were there and overhearing the conversation. And Gary says, oh, very similar to the Gumball Rally, except it's in India, and you get to the furthest western point of India.
Yeah.
You get given a 75 horsepower tuk-tuk or rickshaw, which is one of these kind of almost like a moped with 3 seats in the back and cover over the top. And over the course of 2 weeks, you drive it 2,000-3,000 miles all the way across north of India to the furthest eastern point.
Yeah. It was about 3,000 kilometers, was it?
Something like that.
Yeah, a long way.
So
bear in mind, again, no phone signal. We didn't speak the language. There's no maps either. You literally just had to head east.
So for us, we had that and thought, we'll go.
Yeah.
Why not? What was your memory of what happened?
Okay. So first of all, I just thought this sounds like a great adventure to do with Tyler. I mean, for me, the best education is travel, experiences, and I thought it'd be fun. We know Gary, we know AD who's doing it. We took up my friend Phil. Phil is big. He must have been 25 stone, maybe bigger, I don't know. And there's a seat in the front for the driver and a bigger seat at the back, which was probably just as big enough for Phil, really. But there was 3 of us, and we had to have all our luggage on the top. And we started. We called ourselves the Delhi Tubbies because there was a TV program for kids, cartoons, Teletubbies. And so we dressed up. We bought the Teletubbies costumes, and we got our tuk-tuk painted as Nunu, the Hoover. And so we called ourselves the Delhi Tubbies. Again, we were raising money for charity, and it was a great cause. It was a homeless hostel. There was 3 homeless hostels. Each hostel housed 30 girls, and we helped and basically pay for that for a number of years. But anyway, so that was the main reason. It was a challenge. It was raising money. It was going to be fun experience. That was my thoughts. Anyway, so we started.
Day one.
Day one, we started going up a little bit of a hill, and we were going, come on, and it was hardly getting up the hill. We couldn't. We're going, Phil, you're going to have to get out. I think you're just too heavy. Like, and he was really felt bad, and it was all a bit awkward and embarrassing. And then it still wasn't going that fast. And then we realized we had the handbrake on, and we're not mechanics.
No.
We don't speak the language. We didn't really know where we're going. We were, and it's not like you're following a route. You just had to get to this end point within 2 weeks and stop it wasn't like there was a planned place to stop in as a hotel.
Well, that first day, I think we had to get a couple 100 miles to, I forget the name of the town. And for most of the way, it was just one, especially for the start of the day, one long desert road. And we get about 2 hours in, and I'm sure we'll throw a photo over the video here of this. The engine just blows up.
Oh, yeah.
The thing just shuts off, and pull over to the side of the road. And again, we're not mechanics. I know how an engine kind of works. And I remember opening up the engine, the top of the casket, staring down the cylinder, and we see the one and only piston that it has a massive hole blown through the middle of it. And I think you're advised to buy spare parts. So I think we might have had a spare piston, but just no idea how to replace that piston. While we're doing that, thinking, oh shit, what are we going to do now? We look behind us, and there's this huge sandstorm coming towards us. And so we're then stuck with a rickshaw we have no idea how to fix, a sandstorm coming towards us. Fortunately, there was absolutely nothing in that desert but one Indian gentleman that must have ran out to see us, and he had this mud hut on the side of the road that we just sat in there with him for the best part of an hour while that sandstorm passed. And
it was dark. There's no electricity in it.
Oh yeah.
And we thought, what is that? Oh, that's the bed. And what's this? Is basically, it was just one room in the dark with his family. We couldn't speak there, so we were just, I don't know what we were doing, just stuck there until the sandstorm passed.
And then that day, sandstorm passed. We paid someone to tow us to the next major town or town, really. And then we ended up having to pay some truck drivers to load the rickshaw onto the back of a truck to get to the destination we need to get to for that night, where we'll then find a mechanic to fix it. We pay these truck drivers what might be the equivalent of about maybe like £150, £100, but for them is a month's wages, maybe more. And I remember them started pissing down the rain in the middle of the night. We were sat in their cab of this huge 20-ton truck, however big they are, and they were drinking.
Oh, yeah.
They were taking these kind of, like, I don't know what they have in India, almost like a marijuana drug that they were eating or chewing on. And we got in at 4 a.m. and just every day.
We didn't know where we were going. We thought we might be going to be kidnapped and killed. And I think pistons went a few times. There was a few times you had to get in lorries. There's a few, they said don't drive at night, it's too dangerous. It was dangerous in the day. Like, we've got videos of lorries driving on the wrong side of the road coming towards us. And you just have to, people were coming to get killed in India on those roads. Very dangerous, but also exciting. You were brilliant at driving. Bearing in mind, I can't remember how old you were, but driving through the dusty roads, and they were long days. Like, we would wait from the moment we woke up to the moment we went to bed, and we'd go in bed. So they said don't drive at night, but we had to drive until 10, 11, 12, sometimes 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. We were stuck in the middle of nowhere, trying to find somewhere to stay. We'd find a little hotel with no air conditioning, noisy, bright lights. Oh, we slept in some terrible, terrible places. And then we stayed in some amazing places. We went to the Taj Mahal. Do you remember that?
Yep.
I
think we got kicked out.
We weren't allowed to take our costumes in for some reasons. So we wanted a picture with us. So we went on the other side of the river with the Taj Mahal in the background. Again, we had a quick picture, which actually got on the Daily Mail or some national newspaper in the UK. but some security was chasing us. He was calling the police. He'd got his thing out to chase us, and he was trying to arrest us. I don't know what. And then we just quickly got on the tuk-tuk and raced off. Oh no, we had to bribe someone.
Yeah.
We had to bribe someone so that we didn't get, the police were coming, and anyway, we got out of it.
So on a lot of these challenges we've discussed, a recurring theme, and that rickshaw rally as well, that was for charity, that was raising money for vulnerable girls and orphans in
Bangladesh. Yeah, we went to see afterwards. It was called Help Happy Homes, wasn't it?
Happy Homes. And obviously you've raised a lot of money over the years, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, I guess in total. But also it's not just the charity stuff that you've done, it's also just you have this maybe innate desire to just also help people around you, whether it's friends like Phil that you've always encouraged and you've helped been part of his health transformations, and other people. So where does that desire to impact other people come from?
When obviously I'd like setting goals for myself and achieving those goals, but there comes to a point when you keep achieving these goals, you say, what else? And I found the most fulfilling and the most rewarding thing you can do, and you don't realize this until you're able to be in a position to do it, is giving to others, helping others, seeing other people do well. Like when I first started in business, it was all about, I want to be rich, I want to have this, I want to have that, I want to achieve this, achieve that. And then when you achieve so many things, that's why you see so many successful people going to be become philanthropists. And one of the, and I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but one of the most rewarding things I did, and you weren't involved in this, and this was early 2000s, the economy was good, the business was good, and I had a good chunk of money, and I could have bought myself a supercar or a bigger house, I don't know, whatever I wanted. But I knew if whatever I bought, it wouldn't give me the satisfaction, and it would depreciate in value if it was a car, and I didn't need it. So I paid for 5 schools to be built in Africa. I didn't want to just give money to charity, because these charities, the money just goes in a pot and you don't know where it's spent. Is it spent on wages or advertising? I said to this company, Action Aid charity, I want to fund a project, something I can go and see, and a tangible thing that will make a real difference. And they said, well, we're building schools in Africa. So we paid for 3 to be built in Sierra Leone, and I went to see those schools. And then 2 were built in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC. And again, which I went to, and I flew to Rwanda, we drove through Rwanda and to DRC. And it was the most shocking thing you could see. Obviously I've seen poverty, and I think we've taken you to various poor areas and orphanages in Cambodia and different places. Anyway, I went to see this village in the middle of the DRC, and they'd got nothing. And then when they'd got nothing, then a volcano erupted, and there was volcanic, hardened volcanic, whatever you call it, over all their area. They destroyed all the village, the schools. They couldn't grow any crops. So literally, they had nothing. Now can't even make anything. So the idea was to help pay for the new school to be built. And when I saw the kids, like a lot of them got swollen stomachs because they were starving, hungry. I went to see some of the mud huts that kids were living in. There was a lot of the teenage boys were fighting. There was like a war. I could hear the front line of this war, and they were getting shot because they wanted to be in the army because they get a uniform, they get a gun, they get food, they get significance. But then they were in the front line. There was no old people because the old men were dying or getting shot. And 50% of the women had HIV because they were being raped by the armies. It was like terrible what I was seeing, and it wasn't like I could go to the bank and go to a cash point, get some money out. And I was told not to take any cash because obviously it's a dangerous place. But the money I had, I just said, let's go and buy some rice, And they said, but we bought some sacks of rice. And they said, it'll only feed these kids for a day, But I just thought by building a school, educating children would make a big difference to their lives. They were learning skills. And anyway, the point I'm making is it was very, very humbling, and I was very fulfilled, very, very rewarded. And I just thought, this is an amazing feeling, being able to make a difference in the world. And so, yeah, I enjoy helping people, enjoy seeing them do well. I don't need anything. There's nothing I need, you know. And obviously, you could get on this treadmill of never ending thinking, well, I want a bigger car, a better house, a yacht, a plane, a watch. I live a very simple life now. You know, this t-shirt is from Zara, probably cost £10. I only have 2 pairs of shoes, a pair of trainers and a pair of Birkenstock, you know, sandals, a couple of pairs of jeans. I don't wear a flash watch or designer clothes. My car is 10 years old. It's a Tesla. It's 10 years old. I could buy any car probably I wanted, but you get to this point where you think you want the most amazing cars, and you've done it. I mean, you can answer that question. You'd have got to that decision sooner, but it's nice to have goals and nice to have good things, and you know, still want to have things to aim for. I'm still quite ambitious, and I still want to grow our business and have a good quality of life, but I also want to see other people do well. And if I can share information or give people a helping hand, it could be advice, it could be support. Yeah, but yeah, it's something as you get older, you probably realize more. You know, as you get more successful, you also realize more. I mean, you've only got to look at some of the most successful, whether it's Bill Gates, you know, he's got his foundation. Anyway, that's where I am at the moment. Simple life.
So back to fatherhood. January 2006, I signed a contract called, and I have it in front of me here.
Oh, right.
The Newman Family Expectations.
Right, yeah.
So, do you remember any of the ones on the list?
Yeah.
Which ones do you remember?
Well, it's actually the ones that you probably won't remember, but these aren't my things, because you know the importance when you're encouraging anyone to do something is to involve them. And so I asked you, what do you think is important? If we have some rules in our family, what things should we be doing? What things shouldn't we be doing? And you'd go, oh, well, we shouldn't shout at each other, or we should say please and thank you. So those were things that maybe you said or Summer said. If you're getting something for yourself, ask if anybody else wants one. That was one of my important things.
That was convenient for you,
yeah.
That one. When we're going to make food for ourselves, I always remember you'd pop your head around the kitchen door.
What the family values.
What do you do if you're making something for somebody else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also I will always, you know, do that. If I'm going to get something or going somewhere, you must have had messages from me. I'm just in the shop, I'm getting something. Do you want anything while I'm here?
Yeah.
So yeah, I live by those values as well.
So I'll put them on the screen, but I'll read some of them out. It's some of the most profound ones are, I mean, there's simple stuff like table manners, be kind to everyone, do not snatch, do not moan or complain is a big one, I think, that I remember being programmed into me early on, is you don't complain about things. If you don't like something, you change it. You always do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to do something, you follow through, not just as a commitment to others, but also, I guess, as a commitment to yourself.
Yeah.
And then another one, in our household, we weren't allowed to use the C word, which was the can't word.
Yeah.
And I remember having friends round that would say, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that. And you would quickly point that out from them. So I guess just on that was again an example of you being very intentional as a father. But in a couple years, I'm going to be the age that you were when you had me.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give for me when it comes to being a dad, finding the right mother to my kids?
Well, finding the right partner is the most important decision in your life.
Yeah.
Because I've been together with Caroline now since 1991. So that's probably 35 36 years. So yeah, we've got an amazing relationship. She's an amazing woman and has had so much to do with your upbringing and being a good mother to you in summer and a great partner to me. And yeah, I think you've got to find someone who's got the similar values. But we also complement each other. So I'm a very much adventurous. Let's do this. And she'll be very sensible, reserved, very organized. I'm not very organized. She's sensible with money. I'm not sensible with money. So we do complement each other. But we've also got similar values, and I think that's the key, is just have someone who's got the same values and adapt. We've adapted, we've changed. The person that she was when we met and we're different people now, and you've got to be able to adapt and change. So finding the right person is good. Find someone who's got, for example, if health is a priority, you need to find someone else who's health. There's no point in you finding a partner who likes to get drunk and smokes and is overweight. That's an extreme example, but that might be one element of what are the important things in your life: health, travel, entrepreneurship, whatever the definition of success is. And also could be religion, could be ideas on parenting. I mean, I know people get married and one wants kids and the other one doesn't, and they haven't discussed that. I mean, that's an important thing to chat about. Where do you want to live? I know people now where they're going, well, I want to live in Dubai and the partner doesn't. So you really need to sort of be on the same page in many areas. With regard to the advice on parenting, time is the most important thing to your child. They don't want lots of nice things. Maybe they think they do, but if there's no point buying a child some expensive gift when, to be honest, they're probably happy to play with a cardboard box and kick a ball around. And time, I think that's probably the most precious thing. It's always difficult as a parent to get that balance, because you also go, well, I need to work hard because I want to provide for the family. And sometimes that's used as an excuse that I haven't been with the kids or the family because I'm always working and I've got to bring the money in to have a good lifestyle. For me, what's important to me now is spending time with you, spending time with Summer. Those experiences, the time together is very, very precious. Probably not to you as much as it is to me. As you get older, you know that we are going to die. Time is limited, and so what I get a lot of enjoyment from is spending time with you, but not just doing stuff with you. Like, that's why I wanted to go on Kilimanjaro, or we did Ben Nevis, we did Snowdon, we did Scarfell, obviously all these adventures and stuff, and even when we go away on holiday, it's not just a hotel on the beach. When we go to Japan or Cambodia or Thailand, or we're doing stuff, we're going adventures and jet skis and skydive. We've done 2 skydives together. We did Vegas.
Yeah.
Then we did Dubai, did that together. So doing stuff with you as a family, precious. For me, it's about those magic moments, those memories that we're creating. I mean, one of the recent ones that was incredible for me was, well, first of all, we went as a family to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. That was good. You, me, Caroline. Caroline had never been to Grand Prix before. I don't think Summer and Matt had. We'd been to Monte Carlo and probably others. And they loved that, and that was great as a family. It wasn't even about the Grand Prix for me. It was about being together as a family. And then one of my goals was to fly in a private jet. And I thought, that's quite expensive, or potentially expensive, and, could be argued it's a lot of, an expensive waste of money when you can drive somewhere or fly somewhere in economy. But it was something I wanted to experience. And it would have been terrible just to experience it on my own or just with Caroline. So we booked a private jet from LA to Vegas with you, Summer, Matt, me. It was the first time for me and Caroline, and we just had, it was an amazing experience. And then we landed and we went to the Grand Prix in Vegas to do that as a family. Magical, memorable. Those are the things that are important for me now. If I'm going to spend money, I want it to be on experiences.
So just on the topic of mum,
Yeah.
the first thing I want to speak about, which she mentioned to me recently, is the story of how you guys met.
Okay.
So,
What was her version of
well,
that?
her version was you were interviewing for girlfriends.
I was interviewing for a job. Yeah.
You were interviewing for girlfriends or for a job?
The
job of a girlfriend.
Yes. I'd seen her working at another estate agent, and I thought she was attractive, but way out of my league. Way out. I did think that. I haven't told her that, I don't think, but yeah, I didn't think she would be interested in me.
And then what?
She must have left that job, and I thought maybe we could offer her a job, and I think we invited her in for an interview, and I just thought, wow, this girl's amazing. Wow. So yeah, I was thinking about, I'd like to spend more time with this girl, and I thought, I'm going to offer her a job to start with, and then at least that way I can then, get to know her and she can get to know me.
And so why, obviously you've had a lot of credit from this conversation, but equally mum's been amazing. I'm curious to know, in your opinion, what you think she's done to be such an amazing mother, and what you believe a mother's role should be in a family unit.
But she's the backbone of the family. Like, she is my rock, my support. She's been very supportive of everything I've done, and also everything that you and some have wanted to do. And it's all the stuff that's behind the scenes, really. But organising stuff, and organising your trips and your, everything you wanted to do at school or after school, ideas, planning birthday parties, and just being, holding the family together, really, and just keeping us organised. And we've both got our different strengths, and where I'm not be strong on something, but she's a fantastic mother and looking after you as kids. Probably played a bigger part in that than me. I was definitely working hard, and it was always difficult to get that balance. But I do remember thinking, I want to play football with you, and got you an England kit and a ball before you could even walk properly. But she was there too, taking you to places and doing fun stuff with you. So I think, she deserves a lot of credit for you guys growing up and to the people you are today. She was a great role model for you and Summer.
And a big part of both of your lives is an obsession around health.
I
mean, you've always been healthy. You mentioned when you realized you're going to become parents, that then became higher up in your values.
Yeah.
But then probably more so recently, maybe this is more of a longevity perspective as you've got older, it's almost ramped up a notch. But a comment that you get a lot is, you look a lot younger than you are. So, I mean, this week you turned 59 years old.
Yeah, I'm 60 next birthday. Yeah.
Wow. And so, I mean, what does your health protocol look like, and why is it so important?
Well, as you get older, you do realise how important it is. It is my number one priority. And then, people always say, oh, well, surely your wife or your kids are your number one priority. But the truth is, if you haven't got your health, or you're not there, like if I was dead, well, that's no good to Caroline or you. So you've got to make it your number one priority, because, you've not only you've got to be healthy and live a long life, but there's no point in being 80 years old and being stuck in a chair and not being able to get up and walk around and do stuff. Like, we were fortunate enough to spend a bit of time with Richard Branson recently on Necker Island, and again, he inspired me. He's 75 and he was out kite surfing. He was having a cold plunge every day. He was out playing tennis every morning at 6 o'clock, getting lessons. He was playing chess, playing cards, keeping his mind active. And, so he's inspired me. I was out getting a kite surfing lesson before we sat down today. So I want to be fit and active in my old age, because you're going to have grandchildren, or someone's going to have grandchildren, and we want to play an important part of their lives. But yeah, it's our number one priority. Happiness is Another important point, you know, sometimes when parents are looking at their kids and they want them to get really good grades at school and they go, no, you must get good grades. Well, also the most important thing I want for you is that you're healthy, and same for Summer. And the second thing I want for you is you to be happy. Like, it doesn't matter what else you do, you know, how much money you earn or how successful you are in a business. Obviously I want that for you as well, but health and happiness are the priorities, because I've seen too many people who are seen as successful in business, but they're overweight. Their relationships with their kids or their wife is not great. They're not happy. You know, how many people do we know that look, they've got everything, success and whatever that brings, and they're not happy? So yeah, the health is important, and there's probably 3 key elements to the health side. What I put into my body, so I don't drink alcohol. I'm very careful with my food, and there's lots of things, supplements and things I do. But anyway, what you put in your body is important. Then movement. I don't mean necessarily you have to go to the gym every day, but keep active, whether that's playing tennis or walking a dog. Just keeping active. Obviously, ideally, it'd be resistant exercise. There would be stretching and movement, and then there would be some cardio. But movement. And the third, and this is probably the most important thing, is sleep, because another word for sleep is recovery, or rebuilding. You don't build your muscles in the gym, you build your muscles when you're sleeping. And most people set an alarm and wake up and think, oh, I've got to wake up at this time. I don't actually set an alarm at the moment. And people say, yeah, but I wouldn't wake up. Well, you've got to go to bed earlier. And yeah, but I can't get to sleep that early. Well, then you've got to wind down and maybe do some meditation. But sleep, they're the 3 pillars, you know, and I can go into more depth in all of those. But they're the 3 things I focus on. And if everyone else focuses on, you know, 50% of the population will get cancer. Terrible. 50% of the population is overweight. You know, we're bombarded with TV adverts on things we should be eating and things we should be, you know, ultra processed food is in all the aisles in all the shops. So it is very, very difficult, and people are working long hours and haven't got time to go to the gym, or so there's always excuses. But it's all about, if you haven't got the time, you've got to prioritize where your time is spent. But I could talk. Have you got any more questions on health?
On health, I think you've covered all bases there. Just on the mindset side of things, final few questions I want to fire through. What would you say are some of the most important belief systems you have that have served you well?
One of the things I'm very grateful for is that I don't worry about anything. And that doesn't, you've got to be careful that people think that you don't care. There's a difference. I do care about things, but I don't let worry take over my body. Like, it's a very negative emotion and it serves absolutely no purpose, and there is absolutely no benefit to worrying. And I believe that 90% or more of the things people worry about don't actually happen. So there's no point in worrying. And even if you do worry about them, like, that's not going to help.
Doesn't change the outcome.
Doesn't change the outcome. So there's 2 things I do, and this is my advice, and it's easier said than done, but it's something I've learned and adapted, and now it's very easy, is if it's something you can control, then you go, okay, well, what can I do to stop that thing happening? You know, what is it? So let's say I'm having a barbecue and I'm worried it might rain. Well, I can think, well, I can't change the rain, but maybe I can get a gazebo just in case it rains. Maybe I could plan that we have the barbecue, you know, indoors, and get the grill set up inside, you know, in the oven, just use an oven. I don't know. But you try and do what you can.
Control the controllables.
Exactly. And then if it's something I can't control, just accept it. It's going to rain. We can't stop it. Just doesn't matter. And it's not the end of the world. I think Paul McGee said something. He's a famous author and a friend. You know, he says he looks at things on a scale of 1 to 10. You know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it if 10 is death? And you go, oh, well, it's not really a 9 then. Maybe it's a 1 or a 2. So he says a lot of wise things in his book, Sumo, that served me well. But I definitely don't worry, and I try not to get stressed, because I just control the things I can control. So that's quite useful. My mindset is that anything is possible, and I encourage people to do things and that they think are hard, whether it's a marathon or whether it's a losing weight, whether it's a health thing, or whether it's a business thing. One of my, I love helping people in business, and I don't know if you want to talk about business, but my current business is all about helping people be entrepreneurs and start their own business in whatever industry, whether they want to be an estate agent or a letting agent, a mortgage advisor, recruitment consultant, and I set them up with the brands and the marketing and the tools so that they can be their own boss. And I would encourage everyone, I think, to be their own boss because of the benefits of the higher earnings potential and being able to work flexible hours or work from anywhere, have a better lifestyle. So I enjoy helping those people achieve things they don't think are possible. Like they're earning £50,000 a year in a job, and I'm showing them how they can earn £100,000 or £200,000 a year working for themselves, and they can't believe it. But that's
so coming back to your business journey. So we got as far as worked in a bank, managed to secure a role as an estate agent, got a car, lost the car, got another car, lost whatever, figured that bit out.
Yeah.
What was your journey then into actually starting your own business?
Yeah, so I was probably at this tailor's a couple of years. I was the second year they made me manager of this branch in Rugby, and I thought, wow, brilliant. But as a manager, my pay was based on everyone else's results, whereas when I was first started, it was my result, and I was killing it, earning some good money. And I thought I'm going to be earning less because these guys aren't doing what I need them to do. And even if I sold some houses, so I wanted to earn more money basically. And I said, how can I earn more money? And I actually wanted them to say, well, pay me a percentage of what I bring in, like pay me 30% or something. And they went, no, it was a very low basic and a very low commission. And I couldn't earn enough money. I knew I'd seen someone else who owned an estate agency business, and he looked wealthy to me. He'd got a Mercedes car, big house. And I thought, I need to have my own business, but I couldn't afford to set up my own business. Anyway, I was approached by this guy, and he had 4 or 5 offices, estate agency offices, and the one in Rugby wasn't doing very well. And it was only 6 foot wide, and he'd have a manager, I'd pay them a salary, and he was paying the rent, and he was paying the staff, and he would lose money. And he'd get another manager and get another manager. Anyway, he approached me and said, would you want this business and maybe have it as a franchise? And I thought, yeah, that sounds good. And basically as a franchise, I'd have to pay him 10% of the turnover, but it meant I took on all the liabilities. So instead of having a loss-making business, he'd only get 10%, but it's pure profit. He'd just get 10% of the turnover. So I said, well, look, but how much? I haven't got any money. And he said, £12,000. And I said, I haven't got £12,000. He said, okay, what about £6,000? I said, I haven't got £6,000. He said, okay, what about then if you pay me £5,000 a month for 12 months? And I went, I haven't even got £500. And he said, okay, what about if you pay me £500 a month, but you start paying me in month 3? So that gives you time to get some money in, and then you can start paying me. I went, okay. And I said, but I haven't got any, what about the wages for the first 3 months? What about the rent and the newspaper? He said, well, look, there's a few houses that are actually in the pipeline. So when they come in and complete, you've got the commission coming from those, and you can use that to pay. So I thought, okay, so basically I've got no money. I'm taking on, and I said yes. But I literally had my back against the wall, and I didn't have any backup plan. And I was building up debts from day one, because at the end of that month, I've got wages to pay. And in 3 months' time, I've got £500 a month to pay to him. And so I needed to earn money quickly. So literally, when I'd lock the doors up at night at 6 o'clock, 6:30, then I would go out and deliver hundreds and hundreds of leaflets and knocking on doors trying to get business. And I'd be on the phones in the evening, sometimes till 10 o'clock at night. And I just worked really, really hard to make that work. And then I realized, so in year 1, I brought in loads of money. I was paying him a load of money, and I was paying myself a bit, but I wasn't making lots of profit. And then I went to some bigger premises. So it's still a franchise. So my turnover went up, my costs went up, And that 10% was suddenly 10% of a lot more money. So, and in a franchise, the idea is that you're sharing a part of a bigger brand, getting strategies and operations manuals, and there was none of that. And actually I was doing better than his other offices.
Just on that, Mom told me a story once of there was an area manager or a manager at one of the other offices that reached out to you and said, Sean, you're doing really, really well. How are you doing it?
Yeah.
And then what did you go and do?
Oh, so this is from Taylor's. He worked for Taylor's.
Okay.
And I think I put it in the paper. I can't remember what I put, but I put area director at Taylor's Estate Agents asked how we were so successful or something like that, but this was true. It wasn't a lie. But yeah, it was very, very competitive in the market. Obviously, this is old school newspapers and a way of communicating messages. So I needed to get out of that business model. So in the end, I bought the building off this other guy because I think we owned it 50-50. And then I bought him out, I paid him off the franchise. So we changed the name to Newman Estate Agents. And that was in Rugby. We've got bigger premises. And then we moved again to even bigger premises. And that was 1997. And we had the grand opening on January the 1st, 1997. Or maybe it was the second or third, whatever that was. And then you were born literally like a week later. So Mum was there, pregnant, and we had the Gladiators, which was a TV. Well, the Gladiators is on now, I think, but the Gladiators was a TV program at the time. They're like the most popular TV program at the time, and they came to do the grand opening, and we had queues of people all down the road. So many people they actually have to close the road, and all the police were saying, "Oh, we've got to stop this," because anyway, it was a big opening, and then you were born a week or two later.
So looking back on your life now, the last 59 years, what are some of your proudest moments?
Oh my goodness me. Those schools were amazing. Some of those challenges we did, they were incredible. And people go, well, how did you get across India? And how did we climb up Mount Fuji, Mount Kilimanjaro? Those experiences will live with me, for the rest of my life. And hopefully with yours, we had some great memories of stuff we did. When you were at school, living in our house, which was close to the school, watching you grow up was incredible, and watching Summer grow up into the people you are. Obviously you and Summer are our biggest, most proudest achievements, and you probably don't realize that until you're a parent. But I've had an amazing life. I'm very grateful for everything I've had. It's been a challenge, but the harder life is, the more satisfaction you get from the achievement of something. And that's why we've never wanted to really give you anything on a plate or Summer anything on a plate. We've made it very clear to you both that, we want you to do well on your own. You obviously want to help and support you, but, it's important you do it yourself, because, you look at some of these celebrities and you look at they're rich and famous and they're giving their kids everything, and their kids are doing drugs and, bad relationships and depression and in therapy, and you go, oh, it's because they were giving everything. You don't realize it at the time, but the best part of life is the journey of achieving the goal. When you achieve any goal, and you would have had some of the goals you've achieved, you go, okay, well, I've done it. Now what? And you've got to have another goal. We talked about happiness earlier, and it's important that people are happy. And I found there's two very important things that will help. They're almost like secrets to being happy. And I've mentioned one of them, which was appreciation. I'm always happy. There's nothing you could say or anyone could say to me or do to me that would upset me or make me angry. And that's again something I've learned, because if you are angry, you're only destroying or you're jealous or any of these negative emotions, you're only just destroying yourself. So you can be happy. And the reason you can be happy is because you've got lots to be grateful for. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing. If you've got food on the table, if you've got your health, or if you're able to breathe, even if you're in a wheelchair, you still be able to move. You can see, and if you can't see, you can hear. And if you've got a roof over your head and clothes to wear, and you don't need many clothes, you don't need much food.
It's not happy people that are grateful, it's grateful people that are happy.
Yeah. So be grateful and appreciate what you've got. And you can appreciate small things. You can appreciate breathing in fresh air. You know, you can appreciate that you're not living in a war zone, and you've got family or friends. So there's plenty to be grateful for. Small things, big things. The fact that you can turn a tap on and get water. The fact that you've got a shower. You know, maybe showers didn't exist 100 years ago. So anyway, be grateful for those things. The other thing is, I believe, is progress. Yeah, I think if you're progressing, you can be happy. So, but to progress, you've probably got to have a goal to progress towards. So it could be you're losing a bit of weight, or you're lifting a bit more weight, or you're running a kilometre and now you can run 1.5 kilometres, now 2 kilometres. So it's important you've got some goals or something to aim for, because then if you can see progression, some improvements, that gives you satisfaction. So appreciate what you've got, make progress in life, and to make progress, just have something to aim for. I think when you've got, this is the other one, sorry, similar to progress, purpose. Have a purpose. It's sort of the same thing. What is your purpose? My purpose is to help others. My mission in life is to have a positive impact on other people's lives. And when I say positive impact, it doesn't even have to be a big thing. It could be when you're at a checkout paying for something, that you smile to the checkout person and say thank you.
Well, I even know Mum was telling me there was one birthday you did where you just went out and started giving out cash to homeless people.
Yeah. I mean, I know giving people cash also isn't the answer, because they might spend it on drugs or alcohol or something. But I think that was because our birthday's in December, so it's around the Christmas time, and we were in London, and we were staying in a nice hotel, and we'd been to see a show, and on the way home, we just saw loads of homeless people, and it really, really upset me that we were spending a lot of money in a hotel and having a lovely meal, and there's people that can't afford a bed for the night. So I didn't just give people money. I spoke to them. I spent time with them. I wanted to understand why we're there, why. And everyone's got a story. I've spoken to lots of homeless people. I volunteered at a homeless sort of restaurant in LA, and sometimes it isn't about the money. Spending time with them, someone to listen to, someone to talk to. But when I was talking to some of these people, I found out, like, I want you to have a bed for tonight. And then we would walk to a place where they could get a bed, and I knew they were warm that one night, and they were so appreciative of that. But anyway, having a purpose, making progress, we've got a lot to be grateful for, and I think happiness is so important. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who are not happy. There's depression and mental health issues and stuff like that. And it's unfortunate, but just be grateful. And I think if you want to be happy, you can actually be happier by helping others. It's crazy, isn't it? Sometimes people are the victim and they want people to help them, but you actually it's the same with love. If you want love, give love. If you want happiness, give happiness. If you smile to someone, guarantee they're going to smile back. It's hard not to smile to someone when, but it's really one of those things. The more you give, the more you get back.
Love it. So final question, what part of you do you want to live on through me?
Oh, wow. Giving back to others, helping others. And I know you do. And I've seen people comment on that you've inspired them or encouraged them or helped them. And if that would be the one. I mean, that's where, not only for you, for it's good for the other people, but it'd be good for you. It is good for you. You must feel that when someone sends a message and says, "Oh, this has really helped me or changed my life." It's like, in my business, I get messages, whether it's a voice note or an email or WhatsApp or a call, and I've shared some with you. People saying, "Thank you, Sean. I am the happiest I've ever been," or "I'm earning more money than I've ever earned," or "I've got better relationship with my kids or my wife or my friends or family because I've got more time to spend with them," or "I'm healthier because I've got more time to go to the gym," or "You've inspired me or encouraged me." Or that's worth, like, when you die, it doesn't matter how much money you've got or that you've got this car or that house. It's how many people have you impacted, and that ripple effect, and you'll never know the ripple effect. And that's the most rewarding, and I just want to do more of that. You know, I want more philanthropy. I've just set up a foundation. It took a while. Well, I'm a trustee of a charity, another foundation, and we give to lots of different charities. But I'm just setting up another foundation, which has taken a long time because you've got to set the charities commission and bank it anyway. And that's the purpose is the health, well-being, and education of children. So as I make more money and our businesses make more money, and you know, we put into that foundation. So every house we sell, every mortgage we arrange, every placement we do from the recruitment, every auction property, every property we let or manage, a little bit of the fee goes into that foundation. And I want to spend more time spending that money to see the positive effects that will have in other children's lives. And I think it's important that we focus, I mean, obviously lots of good causes in the world, whether it's cancers or disabilities, but children, the next generation, if you can have a positive effect with those, I think that's where how you change the world. And if I can help change a few people's lives, then I feel my life has been fulfilled. And
Cool.
And I'm just want to add that I'm super proud of you, super proud of Summer. Caroline has done an amazing job, and we should give her a lot of credit because, you know, she's a third Dan black belt Taekwondo. She loves teaching kids, supporting kids. She's put up with me, but she's been very supportive of me and you and Summer. And I love her very much, and I love you and Summer very much. And couldn't be happier with what you and Summer are doing and what you've achieved. So you're making me very, very happy and grateful. You're an amazing son, and Summer's an amazing daughter. So looking forward to seeing where this goes. And I've really enjoyed having a chat with you today.
Well, thank you for your time and for being an amazing role model to me, to Summer, and to everyone watching.
No, I'm very grateful and very happy, very, very blessed. So thank you.
Cool. I'll give you a hug.
Thank you. Cheers. Amazing.